Hello everyone, my name is Eli, and today we are going to be talking about Sternberg's Fish Within the Fish. The centerpiece for the Sternberg Museum of Natural History in Hays, Kansas is the world-renowned Fish Within a Fish. This remarkably complete specimen from Gove County, Kansas is a 14-foot-long prehistoric aquatic predator that had consumed a 6-foot-long meal shortly before its demise, approximately 80 million years ago. So let's start off our journey by examining the components of this discovery. The larger predatory fish that swallowed its prey whole is the Xivactinus audax. The Xivactinus audax is one of the largest bony fish of the late Cretaceous period, and it is considered one of the most ferocious creatures of the sea. The Xivactinus could reach a length of up to 17 feet long, and scientists believe that a 13-foot-long Xivactinus could open its jaws wide enough to swallow a 6-foot-long fish whole. The Xivactinus made its home in the ancient ocean called the Western Interior Seaway, which covered much of Central America during the Cretaceous period, approximately 145.5 million to 65 million years ago. The smaller prey of our Xivactinus was Agilicus arcuatus. The Agilicus arcuatus was a relatively small ichthyodectid fish that also lived in the Western Interior Seaway during the late Cretaceous period. The Agilicus could reach a length of up to 6 feet long. The Agilicus also had many small teeth lining its jaws and ate smaller fish by sucking them into its mouth. Even with its size, it was considered to be towards the bottom of the food chain. Now we will talk about Sternberg and his amazing discovery. George Fryer Sternberg was born August 26, 1883 in Lawrence, Kansas. His father Charles and his uncle George M. Sternberg had become well-respected paleontologists in the late 19th century, and George F. Sternberg would follow in his family's footsteps. At the age of 9, Sternberg made his first discovery, a nearly complete plesiosaur found along Beaver Creek in Logan County. During his career, he discovered many prehistoric finds, such as a giant buffalo with 6-foot horn cores near Hoxie, Kansas, and a triceratops in Wyoming in 1908. In 1924 and 1925, Sternberg went to Patagonia in South America to research for the Field Museum. There he gained recognition for his discoveries and classification of a new subfamily of mastodons. In 1927, Sternberg was hired as field vertebrate paleontologist and curator of the museum at Fort Hays State University in Hays. He developed public and educational programs for the museum and helped to build the paleontology and geology collections. The famous Fish Within a Fish was excavated by Sternberg and his team in Gove County, Kansas in 1952. This rare specimen can be seen at the Sternberg Museum of Natural History in Hays, Kansas. And the following documentary explains Sternberg's discovery. Hope you enjoy.
In June 1952, George Fryer Sternberg pitched his tent on the chalk beds of Gove County, Kansas, less than 50 miles southwest of Hays. Here he had unearthed a discovery that crowned his distinguished career as a collector and preparer of Cretaceous fossils. The entire top of the enormous fish skeleton had been exposed by chipping away the rock with pick, awls, and final brushes. The darkened bones were coated with shellac to seal and strengthen them. By the end of June, with the underside of the fossil still anchored in the rock, careful steps were taken to remove it intact from the ground. Wooden forms were added first. Because of its size, the skeleton had to be divided in the middle in order to transport it from the remote site. Preparation and pouring of the plaster that would ultimately hold the mounted specimen in place were critical. As the summer temperature rose to over 100 degrees, the stamina of the 67-year-old Sternberg and his part-time help was severely tested. Once the plaster had properly cured and hardened, the trenching and undercutting took place. The encased skeleton was freed at last from the rock beneath it. Crated and sandwiched between plaster and native limestone, the removal of the huge fossil made an unforgettable 4th of July celebration for George Sternberg's crew of weekend fossil hunters. The first section was secured on the museum truck for the bumpy ride back to Hays. It took 2 trips to bring both halves to the museum, later renamed in Sternberg's honor. Here he had prepared and housed his finest specimens for more than a quarter of a century. Repeating his work in the field, Sternberg removed the last of the original stone from what had been the underside of the skeleton. After making final repairs and finishing touches, he applied his trademark texture as well as color to the now exposed plaster of the mount. In autumn 1952, the stunning find was first displayed in its permanent home. A perfectly preserved Xiphactinus, 14 feet from tail to shining teeth. But something was imprisoned inside the rib cage. A second intact specimen, a 6-foot Gillicus. For the remarkable fish within a fish tableau, touted today as the most widely photographed fossil in the world, had spared a unique moment from all of unrecorded time. 83 million years ago, the larger fish had barely swallowed the smaller one, when sudden, unforeseen forces of nature conspired to end the unjust meal, consigning both forms at once to a watery grave. George Sternberg's discovery had given renewed life to the visionary invitation extended by his father and mentor, the renowned 19th and early 20th century fossil hunter, Charles H. Sternberg. Go with me on another expedition to these Kansas chalk beds. How fleet is a glance of the mind. Instead of an arid, treeless plain covered with short grass, a great semi-tropical ocean lies at our feet. Everywhere, along the shores and estuaries, are great forests of magnolia, birch, sassafras, and fig, while a vast expanse of blue water stretches ever southward.
And that pretty much wraps up this presentation. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed my Celebrate Kansas Voices project over Sternberg's amazing discovery of the fish within a fish. Thank you so much for viewing my first video ever. Have a fantastic day. Eli out.